Fe3O4 Break is a bit of an odd case in the musical collective of JYP Entertainment. First and foremost, it's a concept album. It's a concept album from a company who notoriously very rarely moves with intention when it comes to concepts. I've talked about this way too many times at this point, but it's what I personally believe is going to be this company's downfall as their artists begin to have more and more trouble distinguishing their projects from other works in their discographies because no work is done to flesh out or ever establish concepts to albums in the first place as of recently. Again, I've talked about this way too many times at this point, but I think it's a good starting point when considering the genuine weight and value that this album provides. Fe3O4 Break runs counter to JYP Entertainment's concept crisis, completely in the opposite direction actually, as a shining example to the industry of what a body of work should look like with any given group's concept in mind. I know a lot of the credit for this album can be given to the special division and mixes underneath at the company, but hopefully we can get this technology and use it for the other groups. If we could schedule like a company-wide board meeting, provide lunch, and put this album's concept work on some PowerPoint slides and show it to the other divisions, we'd be good. We'd be great. I just need JYP to pick up on the fact that this album, Fe3O4 Break, is one of the best additions to K-pop in recent history. It's, as far as I'm concerned, the new standard for JYP Entertainment, and the reason why it is what I want to talk with you about today. I made a video about this album almost as soon as it was released. It wasn't an album review, but mainly a speculation video surrounding the lore implications of this album. And speaking of that video, I was just recently made aware that our friend Sankofa posted an extensive and detailed explanation for what I was talking about in that video in regards to the heart rusting over and the implications of that from a chemical perspective, which is very obviously something I wasn't able to do effectively. I'm going to link that video in the description, and Sankofa's comment has been pinned. I highly recommend you read through it if you're interested in NMIXX's lore or chemistry and K-pop in general. But yeah, I was so initially distracted by what this album meant narratively speaking. It meant to me that NMIXX was not abandoning the mix pop sound and their lore, that this idea of Mixtopia will continue to be a narrative through line for the group. Fe3O4 Break is such a solid return to form in a way that I previously would have thought to be impossible for a K-pop group to do in the modern day, in the current generation. This album takes the criticism their earlier work got, builds upon it, and then runs an extra mile for safe measure. This is a key component to what makes this album so great in retrospect, the integrity this album affords NMIXX as a group. After a pretty rough debut period in terms of reception, NMIXX took a much needed detour with the Expergo and Midsummer NMIXX's Dream albums. Mixpop was on leave. It took some personal time off with all of these singles from this period and left many people wondering if the animosity surrounding their debut caused JYP Entertainment to reformat the NMIXX package. Perhaps Mixpop was just too much, a little too abrasive, especially as the current trends in the industry after 2022 started preferring minimalism in production. Despite the frenzy surrounding OO, I really think DICE was the next best thing they could have done, like to completely double down on the Mixpop concept and not acknowledge the criticism their debut got. Expergo and Midsummer NMIXX's Dream seem to relinquish Mixpop to the criticism though, to take a safer, more palatable route in terms of production as far as the title tracks were concerned. At the time, I was pretty sad about this, to see Mixpop seemingly go away and for NMIXX's identity to forever be compromised in a way if they never returned to the sound they debuted with. I didn't have much time to be sad though, because Love Me Like This did end up becoming one of my favorite NMIXX songs still to this day. It's such a good song, and it ended up charting very well. I think Love Me Like This is one of, if not their highest charting single in Korea to this day, which after that, I was pretty certain that the positive reception these two albums got meant that Mixpop was in the grave forever, but obviously that didn't happen. The Fe3O4 Break album reincorporates the Mixpop sound fully, Sonyar and the title track Dash showing it off on full display. But not only in sound is Mixpop reincorporated, NMIXX visually and conceptually returns to form as well. The concept teaser period featured 4 separate concept trailers. We got the Fe3O4 Declaration, the Mixtory Journal, the Sense Break Awake video, and the individual individual spirit of Resistance trailers. They went all out. And mind you, this is just a mini album. I can't wait to see what they have planned for their first full album. We might get an hour-long visual film that features every track. I don't know. But NMIXX really not apologizing for anything, doubling down on what this group originally set out to do. That gives this release such a profound and remarkable air to it. That in itself makes this album quite great, but then we get to the quality of the music. Dash is an unbelievably good pop song in its own right, which adds to my understanding of why this is one of the best K-pop releases in recent history and will be considered a fourth generation classic. In the wake of the many discussions about K-pop becoming too westernized and what exactly that means and the implications of it, Dash respectfully borrows from old school hip-hop and punk rock sounds while still maintaining K-pop's original charms. I suspect this part of the project's significance will increase over time as people come to recognize and appreciate NMIXX more for what they're contributing to K-pop in the current day. Dash does exactly what it needs to and more. It displays the MIXPOP concept, yet knows when and how to give all members of NMIXX time to showcase their talent as individuals and what they can do together as a group. This is all NMIXX ever needed, and where I think their first two releases fell short for a lot of people. I will find the time of day to defend OO and DICE with my life, but the songs take center stage in a way where NMIXX was not able to fully showcase who they are as performers and artists. Dash makes that goal a lot easier while also not losing out on their concept and sound. It's one thing that Dash returned to the MIXPOP style, but even better is that it refines NMIXX's identity to make it a more balanced product overall. NMIXX are hitting all the right marks as far as I'm concerned. It's not a sound that's going to appeal to everyone, and that's fine, but I think Fe3O4 Break unironically breaks some very important ground for NMIXX to be able to begin exploring their concept and sound more freely. I think the move from this point forward is to continue striking that balance between the group's quite demanding concept and also showcasing their impressive talents as a group. That's the main takeaway from this album for me. Despite the songs being very excellent all by themselves, the newfound resolve and integrity this album establishes for NMIXX can really allow them to do whatever they want from this point forward. It really makes me excited, genuinely, to see the next NMIXX album. Hopefully it is a full album, but if they want to take a couple more mini albums to really establish and expand their concept before releasing the first full project, that would also make sense to me. Dash kind of feels like a real reintroduction to NMIXX, a reconstitution of them as a group, and a return to form with what they always intended to do. As I said before, this release kind of sets a pretty free-form landscape for them to explore many different sounds and styles underneath their identity. All in all, this album is exactly what NMIXX needed at just the right time in their career. They can do whatever they want at this point. They are certainly talented enough to do so. That's my overall idea behind this album and why it seems so significant to me still all these months later. The album is good, but what it does for NMIXX and K-pop can't possibly be emphasized enough at this point in time. I think it's going to be one of the most representative albums of the fourth generation for all of the reasons I've described, and will continue to be significant as time goes on. I mean, as far as problems with westernization goes that I've seen, Dash solves a lot of those issues. Like, it clearly borrows from Western music styles and sounds without compromising what makes the conceptual and performance side of K-pop so unique and enticing. But that's what I think. Thank you for watching this if you did. Let me know what you think about this album, if there's any other part to it that you appreciate or think is important, and so on. Thanks again for watching, subscribe if you want to, and I will see you next time.